back to POV Italian Cooking, where you see cooking from my point of view. Today we're going to make a Parmesan risotto, and really the reason I want to go with the Parmesan risotto is because it's really going to serve as a base for the two bigger stars of the dish, which are going to be some colorful cherry tomatoes and pumpkin blossoms. Some Italian dishes will call for squash blossoms, and they're amazing if you can get them. I just happen to have some pumpkin blossoms. Last year for Halloween we cleaned out our pumpkins and kind of threw the seeds off to the side. Well, a few of them started growing this year, so I just started washing them. Well, they had all these blossoms and I thought I'm going to use those. So let's take a look and get rolling with this recipe. Let's take a quick look at our ingredients for our Parmesan risotto with cherry tomatoes and pumpkin blossoms. So we're going to use about 4 cups of chicken stock. We're going to have this chicken stock on warming on the stove, so that way when we dip it into our rice, it'll kind of absorb a little better. We're going to use about a 1 cup of a white dry wine. I always try to keep a little box of this Pinot Grigio because it's just real handy for cooking. We're going to use a boreal rice, probably about 1.5 cups. Actually, we're just going to use this whole package for whatever it's worth. It's probably about 1.5 cups. I'm going to finely chop this shallot. We're going to use a couple cloves of garlic, very finely minced. We are going to have about 1/2 cup to 3/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. And then our pumpkin blossoms. The pumpkin blossoms and the tomatoes are going to get added towards the end of the cooking process. But let's reset, and I'm going to go ahead and chop up the garlic and the shallots and shred my mozzarella. When we come back, we'll take a look at those, and we'll also see what we got to do with our pumpkin blossoms. Okay, let's start on our shallots, our garlic, and our cheese. And it's that easy to get the shallots, garlic, and Parmesan cheese ready. So now let's take a look at our pumpkin blossoms. Alright, for our tomatoes, we're just going to cut these in half. I'm going to use the smaller tomatoes, and I just selected these because they're colorful. So we'll rinse off some of the smaller ones and split those and have those ready. So now onto our pumpkin blossoms. Now pumpkin blossoms, just like squash blossoms if you've cooked with them before, they're very, very delicate, and down in the middle is kind of the stem. Oh, you can see that in there, and there's a bee in that one, so we're going to put it off to the side because he's angry because he was in the fridge all night. Alright, so down in the bottom of these there is a petal. You can see it right there, and those are bitter, so we want to break those out. And this one has a bee in it as well, but he's dead. So all you do is you just break this out, and we're going to cut this across the bottom like so. Get the bee out. Look at that, honeybee. That's the joys of getting fresh things out of your garden. We're going to rinse these off. We've got to rinse them very slowly, and then we're going to put them on a paper towel to dry. So again, let's take another look. Let's do another one. Hopefully there's no bee in this one. I don't think there is. Yep, there is. But he's not dead. Okay. Anyway, same thing. You can see the stem and the bee. Just take the petal and break it out. I'm going to cut this one out because since there's a bee in there. He's going to roll right out with it. Oh, he's dead. So we get those out again. Those are very, very bitter because of the pollen and whatnot on them. And don't want to eat those because of the bees that are on them. So again, we're going to take that and cut it across the very, very bottom. We're going to rinse these, and then I'm just going to do a rough chop on them. These will have a light, sweet pumpkin flavor, like the zucchini blossoms have a very light zucchini-like flavor. So I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these ready, and then we'll be back. Alright, so I've got our tomatoes ready. We're looking here at about 20 cherry tomatoes that I've sliced into, probably about 1 cup or so. And we've got 11 pumpkin blossoms. You know, right around a dozen you're going to be okay. Again, we're using this is going to be a Parmesan risotto, so it's not going to take much flavor to infuse it, and this is just going to add a nice light pumpkin flavor to it, a good sweet flavor. I'm going to roughly chop these, but we're pretty much ready to go, so let's get relocated over by our stove and get this rolling. I'm set back up in front of the stove. One thing I did forget to mention when reviewing our ingredients was butter. You need about 4 tablespoons of butter. I'm going to get that melting in my pan. You'll see here on the back side of my stove I have the chicken broth kind of warming up. It's steaming. You want it good and steamy when you put it in your risotto. It just helps it absorb quicker. So once I get my butter melted here, we're going to throw in our shallots and our onion, and we're going to cook those for about 5 minutes. So I'm going to get this butter melted. We'll be right back. Hey, the butter's pretty much melted. In goes our shallots and our garlic. Again, we used 1 good sized shallot, finely chopped, and 2 to 3 cloves of garlic. Again, we don't want this to be overpowering. We just want this to add a little bit of depth of flavor. Now, I'm going to go ahead and cook these for 4 or 5 minutes. I just want the onions to start to get translucent. So 4 to 5 minutes, we'll be back. Been about 3 or 4 minutes. My onions are starting to get translucent. Now, I did use a salted butter, but I have an unsalted or low salt chicken stock because I want to always control the saltiness of my dishes. So now we're going to put in our risotto. We're just going to let this kind of cook for just a couple minutes. What we want to do is get the risotto coated. We're going to dump in about a cup of our wine, give or take. That feels about right. We're going to stir this around. I'm going to turn my heat up just above medium. I'm going to stir this until the wine absorbs. My wine has absorbed. It's only been about a minute or two. So I'm going to start ladling in my chicken broth. Do about 3/4 of a cup there. I'm going to go ahead and get this stirred in. Once this is almost absorbed, then I'm going to add another and another and another. So I'm just going to keep repeating this process for a little bit. And then, I'm sure it's exciting. You want to see every ladle, but I'm not going to make you suffer. Look at that. It absorbed that first one really quick. So I'm just going to keep doing this process until my risotto is almost where I need it. And then we'll be back. Okay, I've been stirring this for a while, and I keep ladling in more and more chicken broth. I've made risotto probably 6 times and screwed it up about 3 of those times. The most important thing with risotto is patience. Just let it absorb, put in another scoop. Now, I did see that I wasn't going to have enough chicken broth, so I added some more chicken broth back to my pan to get warm again. So we're just going to keep ladling it in, and every now and then take a little taste test of our risotto to see how tender it is. It's crunchy right now because I just tried it before turning the camera on. Hang with us, be patient, we'll be back. I've used the last of our chicken broth, our chicken stock. I actually used chicken stock, and it's tasting really good. It's getting very tender. So now I'm going to add the Parmesan cheese. This is about a 1/2 to 3/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. Again, we don't want the Parmesan cheese to be overwhelming, just to add another layer of flavor. So don't put in a cup. Stick to 1/2 to 3/4. Finely shredded. There we go. We're going to let that mix. Get it all mixed in there. Wow. You can smell that. It smells so good. I'm going to now go ahead and add my tomatoes. I'm going to let this cook for about 5 minutes with the tomatoes in it, give or take, because I don't want them to break up. The goal is not to have your tomatoes break up. You kind of want them to hold their body. So about 5 minutes. After I've let them cook for 2 or 3 minutes, I'm going to add the pumpkin blossoms. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to let this cook. Getting a little overzealous. I'm going to let this cook just another couple minutes to make sure this Parmesan cheese gets melted and gets kind of evenly distributed. Tenderness is spot on. Time to get these tomatoes in there. I used multicolored tomatoes, tried to get them all about the same size. There's a few that are a little bit bigger. Just use nice cherry tomatoes. Get those mixed through there. That's going to add, again, another layer of flavor. I have put salt and pepper in. I've got it salt and peppered about the way I wanted it. I did end up using about 1 3/4 of the chicken stock boxes. The chicken stock, these are the 32 ounce. See, our tomatoes are gone. I'm going to kind of Let this simmer for a few minutes. Break away. And then come back when it's time to add our pumpkin blossoms. Okay, I just took a bite of this risotto. It's absolutely incredible, and I haven't even got the pumpkin blossoms in. So let's get those in. I'm going to kind of lightly add them as I stir. We're going to let this cook, for 2 or 3 minutes. I'm going to turn my heat down. Again, we want to add these, stir as we add them, so that way we don't have a great big glob of pumpkin blossoms. All my broth has kind of been absorbed. So there we go, pumpkin blossoms. Let this cook, let it kind of simmer for a few minutes. We'll give it 3 minutes. I am going to add just a little bit more broth. I know this broth, ideally we would want this hot. One on the back stove. I just feel like it needs a little bit more, so that way I can get a couple more minutes of cooking time. So we're going to give this 2 to 3 minutes, and we'll be back. Alright, I've let this cook for just a few minutes. The tomatoes are starting to get soft, so we're going to take this off the heat, get this plated up, and we'll be right back. Alright, so I plated up our tomato and pumpkin blossom risotto. Looks really good. Let's try this.
It's good.
Oh wow. Now the tomato taste is really good. You can really, there's just layers of flavor. The Parmesan, the chicken from the chicken stock, the tomato, and then you get that hint of pumpkin. It's not like pumpkin out of a can, like you're making a pumpkin pie. Fresh pumpkin has a completely different taste. If you ever get a chance to have real pumpkin risotto that's made out of fresh pumpkin, do it. Try Nicola's restaurant in Columbus in the fall, he makes a great one. But you get just a sweetness, just a touch of pumpkin from these pumpkin blossoms. I wish I would have had more to put in. But this is so, so tasty. With that, I'm going to plate up a little bit more for my wife, and I'm going to eat this. So, thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate you watching the videos. Follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. But most importantly, click that subscribe button on YouTube. Thanks for watching, and ciao.